Welcome to the BioPharma Business Intelligence Unit, where symbolic integrity meets strategic clarity. At BBIU, we go beyond the headlines to decode the structural forces behind global biopharma, AI, and economic realignment. If you value precision, verification, and symbolic depth, this channel is for you. Subscribe now to access our weekly briefings, dossiers, and intelligence reports, and consider joining our institutional tier to unlock early warning systems, custom metrics, and exclusive strategic insight. You're not just listening, you're entering the future of epistemic intelligence. www.biopharmabusinessintelligenceunit.com.
How Biopharma Makes Money, from Early-Stage Molecules to Biosimilars. September 4th Executive Summary. The pharmaceutical industry is often described as a science-driven business. In reality, it is just as much a financial game of timing, risk, and strategic positioning. Small biotech firms often survive not by bringing drugs to market, but by developing assets into early or mid-stage clinical trials and then selling them to larger pharmaceutical companies. Big Pharma, in turn, avoids most of the early risk and goes shopping for promising molecules once enough data exists to justify billion-dollar acquisitions. Alongside this innovation pipeline, biosimilars, patent cliffs, and manufacturing bottlenecks reshape the economics of the industry. This article explains how the biopharma business model works, what it means to sell a drug candidate at phase 1, 2, or 3, why patents and exclusivity drive corporate lifespans, how biosimilars compete, and why production capacity is as critical as the science itself. 1. Why small biotechs sell early. Most biotech startups cannot afford the enormous cost of taking a drug all the way through to approval. A full development program can exceed $2 billion. Instead, many companies create value by taking molecules through phase 1 or first in human, showing basic safety and tolerability. Reaching phase 2, generating first efficacy signals in patients. Exiting at phase 2 or 3, licensing, selling, or being acquired by a larger company. This model allows early investors to realize returns and frees founders from the burden of building global sales and manufacturing infrastructure. 2. Value and risk by phase. Phase 1 assets, value, safety data in humans, pharmacokinetics, and initial proof that the drug is not toxic. Buyer advantage, entry at a low valuation with potential for massive upside. Risk, about 70% of drugs fail after phase 1. Phase 2 assets, value, first efficacy data in the target disease population. These are considered de-risked, but still early. Buyer advantage, can shape phase 3 design and enjoy a faster path to pivotal data. Risk, phase 2 is notorious for false positives. Many signals collapse in phase 3. Phase 3 assets, value, pivotal data in thousands of patients, offering the highest chance of regulatory approval. Buyer advantage, can plug directly into the commercial pipeline. Risk, these are extremely expensive acquisitions, and a failed phase 3 can erase billions in value. In practice, phase 2 is the sweet spot for acquisitions. Data exists, but valuations have not yet exploded to phase 3 levels. 3. The big pharma strategy, why they shop late. Large pharmaceutical companies increasingly outsource early innovation to smaller players. Their logic is simple: managing risk. 90% of drugs entering phase 1 never reach approval. Letting biotechs fail saves big pharma billions. Capital efficiency. Instead of running hundreds of early programs, focus resources on late-stage winners. Optionality. Through acquisitions or licensing, choose assets that match therapeutic priorities. This is why headlines often show big pharma paying $5 to $20 billion for a company with a single phase 2 or phase 3 drug. For the acquirer, it is safer and faster than building from scratch. 4. Patents and exclusivity. The lifeblood of biopharma. Patents last 20 years from filing, but most of this time is consumed by development. Exclusivity, or regulatory protections, can extend revenue life. In the US, biologics enjoy 12 years of market exclusivity. Patent cliffs, when exclusivity ends, cause revenues to collapse, forcing companies to acquire new pipelines. A weak intellectual property position sharply reduces valuation. Strong patents turn molecules into billion-dollar franchises. 5. The biosimilar challenge definition. Biosimilars are generic versions of biologic drugs. Unlike chemical generics, they are complex and require expensive manufacturing. Advantages: lower R&D cost, approximately $100 to $300 million versus billions for new drugs. Faster regulatory approval. Steady demand. Challenges include manufacturing complexity due to living cell systems. Market entry is often slower than small molecule generics because of physician hesitation and interchangeability rules. Impact. Originators lose billions when biosimilars launch. For example, revenues from adalimumab or Humira collapsed when biosimilars entered the market in 2023 and 2024. 6. Manufacturing, where science meets reality. Biologics are fragile. They require controlled cell cultures, purification steps, and stringent quality control. Scaling up, moving from 1,000 patients in a trial to millions worldwide, often reveals hidden process flaws. Cost of failure. A single contaminated batch can waste millions. Regulatory oversight. The FDA and EMA inspect facilities. Compliance failures can delay or block approvals. Production is destiny. Even with patents and efficacy, without manufacturing excellence, a drug cannot reach patients. 7. Strategic takeaways for the general public. Drug development is a staged gamble. Each phase adds value but carries unique risks. Small biotechs innovate. Big pharma buys. The industry is structured around acquisition, not self-sufficiency. Patents are the currency. Without exclusivity, even great science cannot sustain revenue. Biosimilars level the field. They reduce prices but require industrial strength in manufacturing. Manufacturing is as important as discovery. A brilliant molecule can fail if production falters. Conclusion. The business of biopharma is not a straight line from lab to pharmacy. It is an ecosystem where small players take early risks, large companies acquire at the right moment, and regulators control the gate of approval. For patients, every pill or injection is not only the product of science, but of decades of financial bets, legal protections, and industrial-scale production. Annex: high-profile pharma acquisitions that failed. 1. Pfizer, Wyeth, 2009, $68. Context: Pfizer acquired Wyeth to gain access to biologics and the Alzheimer's candidate bapineuzumab. What happened? Bapineuzumab, once hailed as a blockbuster in waiting, failed multiple phase 3 trials due to lack of efficacy and safety concerns such as edema and encephalitis. Result: billions in R&D lost, no approved product, and Pfizer wrote down large parts of the acquisition value. Lesson: even the biggest deals cannot rescue weak science. Alzheimer's has been a graveyard for pharma R&D. 2. AstraZeneca, MedImmune, 2007, $15.6 billion. Context: AstraZeneca acquired MedImmune to strengthen its biologics pipeline, especially in respiratory and vaccines. What happened? Its most hyped product, the RSV vaccine candidate motivizumab, failed in phase 3 due to safety signals and no clear efficacy advantage over existing therapy, palivizumab. Result: the program was scrapped. AstraZeneca took impairments on the acquisition. MedImmune's promise largely evaporated, though it left AZ with a biologics manufacturing arm. Lesson: buying platforms does not guarantee successful products. 3. Bristol-Myers Squibb, Inhibitex, 2012, $25 billion. Context: BMS bought Inhibitex for its hepatitis C drug INX-1A9, a nucleotide polymerase inhibitor. What happened? Within months, the drug was halted due to severe cardiac toxicity in clinical trials. Result: BMS wrote off nearly the entire $2.5 billion, one of the most disastrous biotech acquisitions in history. Lesson: even late-stage deals can implode if safety risks emerge unexpectedly. 4. Merck, Cerna Therapeutics, 2006, $1.1 billion. Context: Merck acquired Cerna to lead in RNA interference therapies, a then-hyped new modality. What happened? Technical hurdles and delivery issues stalled all programs. Competitors like Alnilam eventually succeeded, but Merck's acquisition yielded nothing. Result: Merck exited RNAi and sold the unit for a fraction of the purchase price. Lesson: timing matters. Being early in a modality can destroy value if the science is not yet ready. 5. AbbVie, Stemcentrx, 2016, $5.8 billion upfront plus $4 billion in milestones. Context: AbbVie acquired Stemcentrx for its antibody-drug conjugate rovalpatuzumab tesirine, or Rova-T, seen as a potential blockbuster in small cell lung cancer. What happened? Rova-T failed multiple clinical trials due to poor efficacy and serious toxicity. Result: AbbVie wrote down more than $4 billion, essentially erasing the deal. Lesson: hype-driven acquisitions can backfire spectacularly when clinical data do not hold up. Synthesis Pfizer and Wyeth, focused on Alzheimer's, was a failure in one of the toughest diseases. AstraZeneca and MedImmune, targeting an RSV vaccine, overpaid for a product that couldn't differentiate. Bristol Myers Squibb and Inhibitex, aiming at hepatitis C, failed due to cardiac toxicity. Merck and Cerna, early in RNA interference, entered too soon. AbbVie and Stemcentrx, driven by hype, suffered massive write-downs. Contractual safeguards, learning from failure. The high-profile failures of billion-dollar acquisitions reveal a clear lesson. Even the largest pharmaceutical companies cannot rely solely on scientific promise or early-stage data. To mitigate the risk of catastrophic write-downs, most modern deals now include protective clauses that distribute risk between seller and buyer. Milestone-based payments. Instead of paying everything up front, acquirers release funds only after key clinical or regulatory achievements. Earn-out structures. A significant portion of the purchase price depends on future success in trials or commercial sales. Representations and warranties. The seller legally guarantees the accuracy of clinical data and the integrity of intellectual property. Indemnity clauses. Financial protection if hidden liabilities, such as safety, legal, or manufacturing issues, emerge after closing. Option to buy agreements. Buyers pay for the right, but not the obligation to acquire the asset after critical data readouts. These mechanisms reflect a shift in deal-making, from outright bets to staged partnerships, where risk is shared. For biotechs, it means steady access to capital. For big pharma, it provides insurance against the costly lessons of the past.